What up, people? Crack Lemonade here, and today I have the final issue of the PlayStation Underground magazine, issue 5, volume 1. I hope that you enjoy.
Welcome to Maggie TV. All Maggie, all the time.
Hey, Maglomaniac, do you want to put aside your...
Fans of Twisted Metal know that the series set the standard for car combat games. Recently, Sony Computer Entertainment convinced the creator of the series, Dave Jaffe, to design a new, darker, more intense version of the game for the PlayStation 2. The result? Twisted Metal Black.
The series began as a design idea that me and another designer, Mike Yam, had back in '93 or '94. And from there, I jumped on the project with a developer who at the time was called Single Track in Utah. And I was the lead designer and director of that title and the sequel, Twisted Metal 2. After Twisted Metal 2, another entirely different group began working on Twisted 3 and Twisted 4. And their take on the game was different than ours.
Most people felt that the third and fourth installments of Twisted Metal did not live up to its predecessors. From what we've seen so far, what's going to separate Twisted Metal Black from the rest of the pack is its storyline. Think Silence of the Lambs meets Seven. The characters are not only more developed, but decidedly more twisted than ever before.
Twisted Metal Black basically takes place in an asylum called Blackfield Asylum. And in that location, you've got 14 characters that are there for various reasons. Some are there because they've murdered other characters, some are there because they're simply psychotic, and others are there for entirely mysterious reasons that you don't really know until you play that character and sort of discover their backstory and their history. Calypso, who's this sort of character we based on Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs, basically breaks them out looking for contestants for the Twisted Metal contest from the asylum. And he offers them pretty much anything they want if they'll play his contest, and the winner basically gets anything that their sort of heart and soul desires, which sort of in the tradition of Twisted Metal doesn't really turn out always to be exactly what they thought it was going to be. But besides the storyline, what we really wanted to do was focus on the deathmatch. So to that end, in the one-player game, we have our basic story tournament mode where you pick a character and sort of go through the world with that character. Then we've got endurance mode where we basically drop you into a level and there's no health, and we basically bring one car after another, after another, after another, and we try to figure out how many that you can get through before you basically get killed. And then in the multiplayer mode, we have traditional deathmatch, we have 2 to 4 player deathmatch, then we also have co-op mode where 2 players can go through the story mode together. But they all really are focused more on deathmatch.
Thought the Twisted Metal games had a cool look and feel? You've not seen anything yet. With the technology of PlayStation 2 at their demented disposal, the team was able to create whatever its collective imagination desired.
As we started to look at some of the specs on the PlayStation 2, we began to realize that we could actually create a game that fulfilled all of the fantasies we had had back in '93 when we first came up with the idea of a Twisted Metal game. We've got clouds rushing overhead that creates this kind of eerie feel. We've got trash and dead leaves blowing through the streets, firefights on crowded freeways with moving traffic, real-time weather and night and day changing, actually being able to see your characters in their cars, and in some instances have them sort of exit the car and do certain kinds of attacks.
We have a lot of memory, a lot of processing, so you'll see a lot more interactivity, a lot more destructibility. I think in one of our levels we're up to, I don't know, close to 1,000 different things you can destroy.
Not only are there more things to destroy, but there are a lot more ways to destroy them. In Twisted Metal Black, you will come face to face with a lethal array of new weaponry.
In Twisted Black, we've made a real effort to build a significantly deeper weapon system and weapon structure.
You can use them, of course, as fire and forget, and they'll have a lot of next generation capabilities. But for the skilled player, there's multiple ways that you can use some of the specials.
Like the satellite attack. As you launch the weapon, these missiles shoot up out of your sunroof into the sky, and they start coming down towards the ground. And if you can get the enemy in the reticle when the missiles fall sort of on their own accord, you do significantly more damage, but it's significantly more challenging to do than if you basically launch them and bring them down immediately.
Discover the dark, sinister world of Twisted Metal Black and come out screaming for more.
The windows are shaking, pictures are falling off the wall. It just sounds like the battle is going on in your living room. It's just unbelievable. We're excited to release this to the universe.
One thing I do want to point out right away, because I might not point it out when it comes up in the demo disc, is the fact that there is a preview for issue 5.2. So, at least behind the scenes, it looks like that they were planning to continue this magazine. And my theory about this is that maybe they looked at the cost of printing the demo discs in the official US PlayStation magazine and the overall production costs of the PlayStation Underground, and decided that this was not worth the return that they were putting into the magazine. And that is the thing that makes the most sense to me. I did a little bit of research, but I didn't really see why it was canceled when I did the briefest bit of research, because I did want to confirm that this was the last issue. Because in my mind, when I first discovered the PlayStation Underground, it was Volume 2, 1, Issue 1, Volume 1 to 4, right? And I thought that they would have ended on issue 5.4 and just thought that it was obsolete. But I can only find issue 5.1, so then I had to do a little bit of research to just confirm that that was the last issue. But I didn't really see reasons why, and maybe if I did a deeper dive on it, I probably would have found that. And this is ATV Off-Road Fury, game I never played, game that never caught my interest, and I'm not good at it. I don't really know too much about it, but for the sake of playing demos, that is the point of having these demo discs. It gives you things to look forward to. It gives you things to be like, ah, yeah, that really wasn't me. And that's how at least I made some decisions on games back in the day, because that's what we had in terms of options to see what a game looked like. You had the cover art, and you had a commercial that you could randomly see on TV, even though I feel like gaming commercials weren't that commonplace. Like, the only ones I really remember are the Squaresoft games. Like, I remember the ad campaign for Final Fantasy VII, and I remember the ad campaign for Parasite Eve. Like, I remember those because those aired during like wrestling. Like, if you watch WCW in the 90s, or if you watch WWF in the 90s, those games would always come on during the commercials. So those are like the strongest memories of like ad campaigns. And the Laura Croft one, because Laura Croft was everywhere in 99. They always had commercials where men were just salivating over PlayStation 1 Lara Croft. And those are the best commercials. If you've never seen them, I highly recommend looking them up, because they are some of the most ridiculous ad campaigns ever. But they were successful because Laura Croft was just on fire in the PlayStation. And four or five games in the PlayStation, and just could not
His helicopter sustained
make it
damage and he's requesting your immediate assistance.
in the PlayStation
Let's get
2.
to work at the Tanberry.
And
Get out there and see what you can
we
do.
might talk about that, we might not. I don't have the PS2 Tomb Raider game right now, but if I ever come across it, it definitely is something I would love to talk about, because it is so ridiculous. So right now I'm playing Army Men Air Attack 2, and I can't really explain Army Men. Army Men was just a huge thing in the 90s. Like, I don't know too much about 3DO, but they made Army Men, they made Army Men 2 Sarge's Heroes, and it just really popped off. And the reason I think it was so popular was because a lot of kids had the Army Men action figures. They were like, dollar store toys, and you had the tan Army Men, and you had the green Army Men, you had the tanks, you had the different sets that you could get, and everybody I knew had at least one set of Army Men. And the movie Toy Story definitely did also help sell the idea of Army Men, because it was a hot game. Like, it was a hot franchise. They had a real-time strategy game, the Army Men RTS, and they just had so many games. They were all over the place, and that's how I knew 3DO. I didn't know that 3DO made systems before this or anything like that. And I was into systems that were not in America, but again, my knowledge base was based on what was in gaming magazines. And a lot of gaming magazines back then would talk about the handhelds. So they would talk about the Neo Geo Pocket and the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and they would talk about the Wonder Swan and the Wonder Swan Color. So those were always games that like had like an air of mystery to me because they weren't available and I did not have the means to secure those handhelds back then. But in terms of consoles, and this is probably because I got into gaming magazines in like 98, 99, they were really just focused on the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation, and from 99 to 2000, the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was the hot system up until that point. And yeah, then the PlayStation 2 came out, and I think a lot of people do attribute the PlayStation 2 to the death of the Dreamcast, but you also got to take into account sales, their sales and their library, and the fact that it seemed like, at least for the most part, Sega with the Dreamcast spent a lot of time catering to like the 2K fans and not really like highlighting the other original titles like Power Stone and things like that. Like they had the 2K version of the Dreamcast and the regular Dreamcast, which were basically like the only two models that were available. And they were always pumping NBA 2K or NFL 2K or NHL 2K. And it's because it was their company, it was their games. But like, you had games like Mortal Kombat Gold, which was something that I never got to play because I never knew anybody with it. And, Sonic Adventure, which was everybody's jam. And, of course, they did, like, push Sonic, but, like, they didn't really... I don't know how else to say it. Like, they didn't have a lot of titles that they were pushing. I remember the ad campaign for Nightmare Creatures 2. But, like, in terms of, I guess, garnering a larger audience, I don't really remember the selling points of the Dreamcast other than, like, Tony Hawk and, like, other multi-platform games played the best on there. It could be because of what I was exposed to when I was younger versus like what was actually out there. It just seems like they cater their ad campaigns and everything to the sports games. Back to Army Men. This is Green Rogue, and the fact this game is actually kind of fun. It's very entertaining. And I will talk a little bit more about this in the next part. But thank you for watching so far. And I hope you enjoy this dive into history.